Welcome, friend, to the Fresh Ideas podcast. I am your host, Alejo Porras, and nope, this is not a baking show, but you'll be hearing from experts that can add a unique flavor to your creative life and business. Simply said, you'll find inspiration, practical tips, and new perspectives that you can apply. Today, you'll listen to a conversation I had with James Barnard, who is an amazing person, but is also an amazing brand designer, logo designer, content creator, entrepreneur, and super funny guy, to be honest. We met earlier this year at a conference here in Georgia and decided, why not? Let's see if we can bring him. He said yes, and we had an amazing conversation. So here's what's on the menu for today. Appetizer, listen for enhanced encoding and where are my socks. Main course, defending your work. And dessert, content creation, batching, and how to generate leads with teaching. Now take a seat, relax, and bon appetit. Hello, welcome to the Fresh Ideas podcast. And I have with me today James Barnard, the one and only, who I got the pleasure to meeting earlier this year at Creative South. And we're going to chat a little bit about that. But before we get started, James, thank you so much for taking the time. We're in different time zones. One caffeinated, the other one kind of wrapping up.
That's right. Yeah, it's always tricky, especially middle America. Very difficult to get on a call at any time during business hours. So I believe it's very, very early for you and it's quite late for me. So I'm glad we can make this work. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we make it work. That's what creatives do. Now, tell me, James, what are you most looking forward to this year?
A holiday, if I'm being completely honest. I have been really burning the candle at both ends at the moment. I'm doing a lot. At some point last year, I realized I was doing maybe a little bit too much on the social media side of things and not focusing enough on my business. And, I've had the realization that I want to leave a legacy behind of, great work and not just goofy videos on social media. So I've been working pretty hard on the business lately. I've got a couple of huge clients that I'm just working on right now. A classic, the work won't come out until ages, so I'm going to have to wait forever to promote it and show the work that I'm doing right now. But yeah, it's been hard. I've been doing a lot of work on the business. I've hired a small team. I have a salesperson now and an assistant and a copywriter and a animator as part of the team now. So I can officially call myself a small studio, which is new. So yeah, I've been working hard on that. And I'm going to the UK on holiday in a couple of weeks to see the family and to introduce my son to his granddad for the first time. For your listeners, we live in Australia, but I've only lived here for like the last 4 years. And since we arrived, my wife was pregnant when we arrived. My son was born here, hasn't been to the UK yet, so he's going to go meet Grandad for the first time, which is going to be a lovely moment. So yeah, we're having a bit of a holiday. It's going to be a good one.
How old is the baby now?
So he's 4. Yeah, no, he just turned 4 today. So yeah, he's not a baby anymore. He's a little tearaway.
Ooh, that lunch was going to be interesting.
6-year-old. Yeah, I have a 6-year-old daughter as well. So all I do all day long is play referee between them, just separate them from fighting and just like pulling each other's hair and stuff like that. So I'm not quite sure how the flights are going to go. It's a long couple of flights to take a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I did the trip to Adobe Max London earlier this year, and it was hard enough on me alone, let alone taking 2 young children with me. So it's going to be brutal, but yeah, the holiday at the other end will be fantastic to see the family. I can't wait.
Yeah, I've taken my son to Costa Rica, which is like a 4 to 5 hour flight, and I don't know if this might work for you because your flight is longer, but we did train before the trip. Like we pretended we were in the airplane and like how the etiquette was going to go, like kind of like a game. That helped.
Nice. Did it really?
Yeah, it helped, but it's a considerably shorter flight, so like might as well just like try it for.
I've heard all the advice. I've heard everything from buying something like a sticker book or a small present for them to unwrap every hour on the flight, so there's something new for them to keep them entertained, all the way through to just drug them all the way to the other end. Who knows what we'll end up doing. My son is really active right now and running all over the place, so he's going to be a nightmare, I know. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, man. Interesting. I put a note here because the parenting aspect of designers is something that I'm always kind of interested in learning about. how to juggle that life. But we can talk a lot about that a little bit later. I want to geek out for a bit because that's why I brought you here. When you talked at Creative South, you talked about enhanced encoding as a hack to learn. You got me there. Like you got me at that fancy word, right? Okay, learning. And let's talk about how to learn. What is it about enhanced encoding that creative people should not miss or should pay attention to?
Let's, first explain what that means. Okay, so while I've been in this world of creating content for social media and sort of imparting knowledge to the best of my abilities anyway, I noticed at some point along the way that while I've been teaching this information to others and making content specifically about bits and pieces around the graphic design industry, I realized that I was actually holding on to that information a lot more. I was retaining the information. So much so that I did the Adobe certified exam for Adobe Illustrator. A question came up and I only knew the answer because I had previously taught it to my subscribers, my followers on social media. So the information was sticking for some reason. So I started looking a little bit more into it. And enhanced encoding or the protege effect is something I discovered through this. So when we teach something to someone else, that information sticks in our brains for some reason. It's to do with the way that we process that information. Enhanced encoding refers to the way that our brain stores information. So when we teach something to somebody else, our brain makes connections with that new information and what we already know, and it allows us to remember it better. And there was this amazing study done by the Psychonomic Society in 2014, where they got a room full of students at UCLA, and they split them in half. One half of the students were told to read a passage of material. I think they had something like 10 minutes just to read this passage, memorize it, learn it as best as they could, knowing that they would be, they would take an exam on that passage of information. So they would be tested about their knowledge on it. The second half of the group were told that they were going to have to teach that information to a new student that was going to come in, and then that student would then take the test. So the first half of the group were, I guess, the learners, the second half were the teachers. When they went to perform the procedure after the 10 minutes was up, the teachers group, they told them, oh, whoops, your student hasn't arrived. Would you mind taking the test instead? So they kind of tricked them. And so both parts of the group took the test at the same time, and the would-be teachers massively outperformed the people who had just been told to memorize the material, because they tried to associate that material with what they already knew. They tried to understand it enough to be able to explain it to somebody else, and they remembered it better. So this is a genuine learning method. So much so that doctors and nurses for years and years have used this method called see one, do one, teach one, which is you learn a procedure, like a medical procedure, you immediately do one yourself, and then as soon as possible teach it to another doctor or another resident. And for donkey's years, this was like a tried and tested practice going all the way back to something like the 1800s, where you were basically forced immediately to teach what you just learned to someone else as soon as possible. And then that way it kind of sticks in your brain a little bit better. So I found this out and made a talk about it, and that's what I talked about at Creative South. So thanks for the callback. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, why do you think that is important for creatives? Like people like you, like me, why should they teach?
Well, there's so many reasons. They're all completely self-serving. It's fantastic. If you make content on your socials about our industry and you try and impart your knowledge and share it with other people, your following grows on social media, and as a result, so do client leads. And that's exactly what's happened to me. By sharing what I know, I've actually been my business has done better because of it. People are finding me on my socials and seeing me as kind of like the expert in my field, because I'm seen to be sort of teaching other people, and it just adds a level of credibility to your operation, and just helps kind of sell in your services a little bit better. But obviously the other benefit of that is that everybody's learning, everyone's sharing, and that means our whole industry rises up as a whole. So gone are the days where people were gatekeeping information and not sharing their processes, and places like agencies were very secretive about how they worked so that other agencies wouldn't copy their process. But these days, especially among people online and freelancers, we're all sharing. And as a result, the whole industry sort of rises up, which is obviously massively important in today's world where, a lot of jobs are being threatened by things like AI and all sorts of other things. So I think, this whole sharing methodology works in so many ways, and everybody should be doing it. So our industry just rises up.
I have a curveball for you there. I agree completely with everything that you said. I put myself in the shoes of people who are like, there's James Barnard out there. Like, he already taught all the tricks in the Illustrator book. Like, what can I bring to the table, right? Like, I'm just starting up, or like, what would you say to somebody like that?
Well, I'm not saying copy my stuff and share it with other people, obviously, but you'd be surprised about what people don't know. This really, really struck me when I first started sharing more on social media. What I used to do was do, screen recorded time-lapse videos of me taking something like a sketch and turning it into a vector in Adobe Illustrator. And I would use something like the Shape Builder tool. And then the comments were coming like, what did you do at like 23 seconds in where there was that squiggly line on screen and the Shape Builder tool stitched all that stuff together? And I was like, well, and then there's a piece of content right there. And you wouldn't believe that swathes of people who don't know what you know. So there's like an audience, a lot of my audience are on the older side and have done things a certain way for a very, very long time. And they will write comments saying, I had no idea that existed. The software has updated so much over the last 20 odd years that if you don't stay on top of like all these brand new features and all these new workflows, you're going to get kind of left behind. And so that's where I think my content has done quite well. I just every time there's like a new update to Illustrator, I'll just go through the wizard and just check out what's new, share about it. And I don't see too much repetition. There's a few like tools and tips with something like Adobe Illustrator where content will kind of go viral because it's such a great tip, and then people see that and they copy that format, and that's fine. But if you just keep sharing the ins and outs of your daily life, new designers will come on board and they'll see your content, and then that's like a great educational resource for them. And honestly, I don't think there could ever be enough of us doing it. As if we're all sharing what we know, then everybody kind of rises up because of it.
I think it's also a powerful thing to know that there's only one James Barnard, and there's people who resonate with how you do things. But like, there's gonna be people who resonate with a goth metal person who is like teaching the same stuff just because of that, of their own personality. It's something that I don't see James Barnard, with a mohawk or anything like that trying to, you know. So there's that aspect of like, you are you, and the people who resonate with you will resonate with you, and eventually clients who are into that, I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna hire the punk guy, or like I'm gonna hire the.
I've got a great example of this. I lost a job recently to another, design influencer, and I got told about it. And the reason I lost it was because our styles were totally different. Like he was very illustrative. I won't name names. You could probably guess who it was, but our styles were very, very different. I'm a very, geometric, shape-based logo designer. I love my symmetry. I love my balance. This other guy's very illustrative and a very, well-renowned illustrator. Does very great character drawings and a lot of personality in their logos. And the client went with them just because of their different styles. So yeah, you're right. There's always a gap. There's always a niche for somebody. You just got to find your own. Going
back to enhanced encoding a little bit. So there's one thing that I've been thinking about ever since you talk about a Creative South, and it's just the aspect of memory itself. We're just going to tangentially talk about AI here. I don't want to be this a conversation about AI, but one thing that I've been talking with people is that the fact that we have answers so readily available to us makes it really hard for us to develop our muscles of memory and actual learning, because we think, it's like, have you heard about the "mama, where my socks at" problem? No, of course not, because I just made it up. So you know, like when you were growing up, you were like, "Mama, where are my socks? Where are my socks?" And you will have to always ask your mom where your socks are, because you knew your mom will know. So you would never pay attention to where your socks would be. And it's this idea of like, we guard information, or we deposit information in the heads of other people, and then our brain uses that as like external brains that we can rely on. And going a little bit morbid here, that's one of the reasons why we grieve when people die, because there's a part of our brain that is stored in that person that we cannot access anymore, right? So like we have been doing this forever, right? It's part of the reason why human kind is so advanced because we can store information everywhere. But now information is at the top of our fingers. And if we just rely on accessing information like that, we forget how to think. So when you talk about that, like how does this make you feel in general? Like what are your reactions to this?
Well, that's not a new phenomenon. So there was a study done, wasn't there, about when GPS came out in cars, and people realized that by not using maps anymore or not trying to remember directions to a place, that part of our brain actually gets smaller, our orientation. So that's not something new. Within graphic design, I think that without trying to learn and trying to retain that information, you will always be a slower designer. There will be someone out there who can actually go a lot faster than you, because you're not having to go to Google or wherever to find out how to do something every single time. I blow my own mind sometimes when I'm answering in the comments and someone asks me how to do something. I can recall the menus and the menu commands of where things are without having to look on screen. And that's just come from practice and repetition and from doing this for so many years. See, obviously, experience is a part of it, but, you'll be a much faster designer if you just try and commit some of this to memory. And teaching it to other people is a great way to do that. I mean, it's not for everybody, but there's loads of different ways you could do it. You could write tutorials for yourself, document what you do. You can write articles about it and, that kind of thing. You don't have to get on camera. There's loads of ways. But, definitely imparting that knowledge is such a fantastic way to help you remember next time round. And I found that really helped me when I was working at agencies. I was lightning quick in the software, and that comes from being able to recall that information and recall those tips and tricks at the drop of a hat. And you can't really do that if you're having to Google every single time how to do a certain effect or something.
Amazing. Okay, let's move on. Two-punch question here. I'm a firm believer that nobody is 100% self-made. And I know I'm guilty of this. I don't give enough credit to people who have invested in me, and that's something that I should be doing better now. But in your case, what is one mentor, coach, or teacher that has made a significant impact in your life? And what's one lesson, big or small, that stick with you?
I talked about this almost the other day, actually, on my socials. My creative director, one of my first ever jobs in design, her name was Zoe Laycock, and she introduced... she was incredible. She was one of the first people in my career to actually champion other people and further, the younger designers on the team and actively look to kind of, advance their careers. I remember going into a meeting with her about, kind of what do I do with this life as a designer? Do I keep carrying on as a generalist? And we talked at one point, maybe I would go down the UX route, and I tried my hand at it for a little bit, and ultimately it wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy it all that much. But while I was working in magazines, which is where she was my creative director, we had this problem where internally we were getting so much feedback on our work, so many rounds of revisions. The feedback that was coming through was just relentless, and it was really kind of demoralizing our team. We were getting a bit jaded and kind of, downtrodden. So Zoe implemented something for us designers to do to try and combat this. And long story short, she got us to defend our own work. And that came in the format of every time we sent over a design for approval within an internal team, we would have to send our design with a 1-paragraph rationale of what we did and why we did it. So instead of just sending a JPEG as an attachment and going, what do you reckon? We would have to send over a little line or two, basically telling them why we picked a certain colorway, why we'd chosen that font, why we picked that digital asset, like a piece of photography or something like that, explaining the design choices that we did. And what that meant was that it showed that internal team that we weren't just randomly choosing things for our design. We thought about it, we considered it. It meant that we'd actually be able to defend our work as it went through. But we discovered that it made us better designers, because while we're working, we're now thinking in the back of our minds about this paragraph that we're going to have to write. So every time we added something to a design, like a border or a drop shadow or something that was maybe a little bit unnecessary, and we couldn't kind of defend it to, later on, we would then just remove it, which meant our designs ended up looking less cluttered. They were more organized. We'd thought about everything, less is more, and it made our designs so much cleaner. So it totally helped in both ways. It made us better at our jobs, but also stopped the amount of feedback that we were getting, and everything just kind of ran a little bit more smoothly. So I've totally taken that into my own business. Every time I do a logo design, I mean, obviously you should do this anyway, but I have a really great rationale. I've thought about everything. Every piece of the design has been considered and done with meaning, so that when a client questions me on it, I'll have an answer for their question. And that leads to less indecision and doubt from them, which usually leads to faster sign-off.
Isn't it funny? It seems like enhanced encoding is chasing you, because this is essentially putting a mindset in the team of, hey, you're going to teach this to the client. Mm-hmm. So you have to think through.
Yeah.
Fascinating, man. And I love this, like what we did and why we did it. It's a really, really good advice in general for anybody
Definitely.
who is in the creative industry. Yeah, it's all about communication, and you have to be intentional with that. So that's awesome,
right.
man. Now let's go back a little bit more. Let's move forward in your career when you started creating content. Back in the day, before your video went viral, I think it was 3 years ago, 2020.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like back before you went viral, but you were creating content, right? Like you were working on stuff. You had already done some cool things for other agencies. Think about even like the day before your content went viral, when you were unaware of this thing coming at you. What were you aiming for at that point, or pursuing?
I guess to be more discoverable to clients. So, one of the questions I get asked a lot is like, how do you find clients? And it's so much easier for clients to find you than it is for you to find clients. If you make yourself discoverable within a certain niche, the clients will come to you. So that was what I was trying to do. I was basically actively putting out more. I was writing articles across my website. I was changing things on my website to kind of get good at SEO, so people would come to me through search. I was really trying hard at trying to be discoverable for what I do. So not really like too long before I went viral, I just kind of niched down into the logo design and branding side of things. I've done it for years, but I've also done a lot of other stuff as well. And I was marketing myself as like a generalist, jack of all trades, graphic designer that can do help with web design, help with poster artwork, help with email newsletters, digital display, all that kind of stuff. I was packaging all that up under one general freelance graphic design service. So I wasn't really getting. I had a few retainer clients doing the same kind of stuff all day, every day, and it was kind of soul destroying. I was waking up in the morning to rounds of amends of things on stuff that I just really was not passionate about, and so I kind of pulled the plug on this logo design thing. I watched all of Chris Doe's content from the future, learnt about how to sell myself a little bit better, how to charge a little bit more maybe. And one of the ways to do that was to really kind of niche down. But, I will say this with a caveat that I was, 10, 11 years into my career at this point. I've done a lot. I've experienced a lot. I've tried my hand at almost every facet of graphic design other than 3D. I still haven't cracked 3D. But I've done a lot. I've done print design, web design, UX. I've done a little bit of Flash animation back in the day. So having dipped my toe in all these places, the one part of the industry that I enjoyed the most was branding and visual identity, and so that's where I put my focus. So yeah, it was quite scary. I fired 2 retainer clients in order to focus on this, and I'm glad I did. I mean, that sounds terrible. I'm glad I fired them, but it worked. It really did work immediately when I changed tack and really just kind of started focusing a bit more on being searchable as the logo designer. The clients came quite quickly after that. It was great.
It's great that you do the caveat there. Because the niche idea like scares so many people. I do so many things and I enjoy so many things. It's like, okay, right. Yeah. But then there's the other side of that, in which like I don't really know what I enjoy, and I tell people about like the metal detector kind of principle thing. Like you just have to go around first, like trying different things, exploring the territory and seeing what makes the beep beep beep, and like once you find that you can start digging, very specifically on that area. So it's great that you did that caveat, because some people might need that before they think about niching down. They need to find themselves, find the area that they really want to work on before they try to do that thing.
So it's also worth noting that you think that you can charge more because you have more services, that you're offering more services, like you have more skills that you can advertise yourself about. Like, I can do web design, I can do video, I can do this. It kind of works in reverse. People don't know what you're specializing in. So when it comes to searching, like, I needed a designer to do this, there's so much saturation out there. There's so many other people that can do all of these services that they've got so much choice. It's too overwhelming for a client to find you. If you then focus on the part that you enjoy the most, maybe that might lead to you using your skills in other areas. And for me, logo design is brilliant, because once I've got them in the door with the branding, there's all sorts of stuff I can upsell on top of that. Like, maybe I can help them with the website. Maybe I can animate the logo. Maybe I can do some custom typography or whatever else they might need for their business. So it's like a lead generator, and then you can still build on that once you've got them through the door.
Yeah, you feel like it's a funnel first, like before you think, oh, I can offer a lot of things, and that will narrow down what I get, the kind of clients that I get. But it's actually the other way around. Like, you get them through a small door, and then you open the world for them. It's like, ooh, there's a world behind this door that is amazing. That's of things that we can do. So fantastic, man. Now, you're famous now, like successful, living the dream, like
shaking my head for the
Now, I know, like, virality can be fun, and I know this not from experience because I haven't gone viral yet, but I've heard from many people it's not the right thing to aim for. It can be tricky. So in your case, you were already kind of grounded, like had experience, were already settled, you already had great skills, not only as a designer, but also like entrepreneurial, I guess, skills, having working in corporate for a while. Now, in your scenario, having all that, what's something surprising, positive or negative, that you have learned in the past 3 years since going viral?
Well, mainly that there are clients on places like TikTok. I couldn't believe how much like TikTok for business was a thing. Like when I went viral, I had my ducks in a row. That's one thing to note. Like my first viral video hit like 3 million views. It was really lucky. When that happened, I had my website up and running. I had other videos on my profile kind of showing what I did. All of my links were right in link in bio, and there was an easy way for me to kind of get contacted. Also, my portfolio was up to date. I'd done my hard work, done the legwork there. So when that first viral video kind of went off, I was ready. And that's what led to leads for my business. And it was insane. Like 3 million views on a video at the time got me something like 70 leads from that one video, which was more than I'd had in like the previous 6 months combined. It was insane. And then I basically just tried to keep the hype train going on that, and that's all come from just answering the questions that come through in the comments. Like one of the first questions I got was, after the first viral video was me showing off that I got into a book called The Logo Lounge. Like some of my logos got showcased in this book. I was really proud about it. I bragged about it on camera. The next question that came in after that was like, show us the logos. And then I did that. And then it was like, how do you find clients? I was like, okay, I'll make a video about that. So I'm making content for graphic designers, and that's bringing in clients, strangely. I was like, what's going on here? Like making content for a certain audience is bringing in jobs for another audience. And I found it's about, just setting yourself as the expert. People see you as the teacher. The clients are more, it lends a bit of credibility your way. It's like the social proof that the client was looking for in order to kind of, get pushed over the line. So yeah, that's one of the most surprising things, is that there are clients out there on places like TikTok willing to spend money. You don't just need to be searchable on places like Google. You can bring in leads from social media. And I think something like 80 to 85% of my leads now come directly through Instagram or TikTok, which is wild.
That is wild. Crazy. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that you mentioned that, like, just kind of preparation attracts luck. Like the fact that you, in a way, just having faith that something like that could happen or eventually would happen. It's like, I don't want luck to catch me off guard, unprepared.
Yeah.
Now, you talk a lot about content because, of course, you're a content creator, and batching content, it's something that every content creator that I've ever spoken to says you should do, but it's freaking hard, man. At least for me.
Yeah.
What are some baby steps that, people like us can take to batch
content? Can I blow your mind? I don't batch content at all.
What?
I can't. I don't. That's not how my brain works. I'm too impatient. If I make a video, I have to post it almost immediately. So yeah, the only time I ever batch up content is if I'm going away somewhere, or if I've got something coming out, like a paid promotion. That's the only time I'll ever do something. I have like a list of ideas that come in the shower. When I get out of the shower, I'll write down an idea for a video. My day looks like this. In the morning, after I've dropped the kids off, they've gone to school or daycare. The mornings are my kind of creative period. I get my admin out of the way first sort of 15, 20 minutes. The next 2 to 3 hours is working on client work. So any sort of logo design jobs that I'm working on is my morning work. I'll get as much as I can out of the way. When I start to feel a bit tired or a little bit burnt out, maybe I'll switch to making a piece of content. And I've managed to get my process pretty streamlined now, where I can make a minute and a half long, pretty polished video in about 3 hours, from writing the script to filming to editing. And then I'll post at about 4 o'clock. So between like 1 and 4, like twice a week maybe, I'll do that. And so as long as I've basically stayed pretty consistent with that. And I think that's one of the things to note, is that staying consistent is keys to success on social media, is doing the same thing. Don't go overboard. If making 5 videos a week works for you, then fine, do it. It certainly doesn't for me. That's way too much. If one video, every 2 weeks is enough for you, then fine. Just stick to that and just keep at it. And for me, 2 to 3 videos a week is my maximum output, and I will make the video in the same day and post it the same day. So I very rarely batch content. So and look, I don't want to float my own boat or anything, but I just passed the 1 million follower mark with using that process. So
nice.
You don't have to batch content at all. Just do it. If you've got a streamlined enough process, do it off the cuff and do it at a pace that works for you.
That gives me a relief, because I'm kind of like that, and I'm always stressed out, like I'm not doing it right.
There's no right way, really. That's half of it, as well as experimenting and just testing what kind of works for you. I've tried it all, man, honestly. There's certain types of content that kind of will go viral, and for me that's like a bombshell illustrator tip that nobody knows about, set to an old classic, something like a Meatloaf song or a Madonna song or something cheesy to capture my older audience. Do that, with no dialogue. Those videos usually do pretty well. But the thing is, you can't do that all the time, because it's you'll just kind of get bored with the old same content. There's not really that much value there, because you're just kind of showing like a bombshell tip. If you really want to teach people, you got to start talking on camera. So I try and mix the content up a bit. Sometimes I'll talk on camera. Sometimes I'll play 2 roles, where I'm talking to old designer and new designer, and I play the same person. Spice up my video editing skills a little bit. Sometimes it will just be me talking on camera and explaining something, or explaining a problem within the life being a freelancer, trying to combat something like burnout, or how to deal with client feedback, that kind of thing. So as long as you mix it up, you'll keep it more saucy for you. You'll keep actively wanting to do this, and that persistence and that, what was I saying before? That consistency will lead to, more success on socials, for sure.
I love the ones in which you're talking to your younger self or your older self. I don't know, like, and I especially enjoy that they not only teach each other, like
they have a little argument, don't they?
Yeah, they have an argument, but they also love each other. They're like, okay, love you, bye. Which is great, because in the subliminal aspect, it's like, hey, you're loving yourself, right?
Yeah,
like most people are mean with their younger selves. It's like, oh, I was so stupid back then, or whatever. It's like, no, you just didn't know that much. So.
That's a fun way to kind of like, if you've got something to say, rather than just like monologuing to the camera, is to pretend like you're having a conversation. That's all over social media now. Everybody does it, and it's fun. It makes it more fun for me, if I'm being completely honest. I can play both parts of that. Yeah, it's good. It's when you can pull it off. The editing is a lot harder, obviously, because you're talking to yourself. You can't just kind of cut from frame to frame. You have to overlap those frames a little bit to pretend that you're actually having those conversations. And then obviously there's like the stuff on camera. If you're showing like a software tip and you're trying to explain it, those are really hard. But when you can pull them off, they work. And obviously it means a little costume change in the office as well. So I've got hats behind me that I'll put on when I'm the younger designer, and my old plaid shirt for older designer.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Okay, we're running out of time here, so there's a bunch of things that I would like to ask you, but let's wrap it up with this one, and maybe next year we'll have another conversation.
Yeah.
When you are not working or making content, what are like simple things in life that make you truly happy?
Oh, just spending time with my kids. This is one of the reasons that I'm a freelancer, is that I can be home every day. There's no commute. I'm always here for dinner time. I'm always there to tuck them in at night, and that's really important to me. I complain that my kids drive me up the wall, and I'm sure any parent listening is like, yeah, right, sure you do. But I wouldn't have that any other way. And I tell my children all the time, like, you've got it lucky. Your dad's at home every day. He's not out, commuting home and arriving home at 6 o'clock each day. He's there when you arrive back from school, and that's a rare thing. And I love this lifestyle I've built for myself now. I just need to find more time to do stuff for me, because obviously freelance career plus children, there aren't a lot of hours in the day where me and my wife can go on like a date night, or I can play some video games, which I love to do, or watch movies, which is another thing that I love to do. So there you go. Video games, movies, and date night with the wife. Other than watching the kids, those are my things that float my boat.
I totally agree with that aspect of just being around, because I had a full-time job for a while, and without going too much into the story of that, like it was great. I love the job, and I still they're my biggest client now. But I decided to move out of that because I realized that I wasn't around that much, and when I was around, I was tired, and I needed to be here. And I was like, it's 7 a.m. right now. In half an hour, my son is gonna come through the door and it's gonna hug me, and that's the best moment of my day. Like, just know that I'm awesome here, and we can just cuddle for a little while.
You are very lucky that he sleeps until 7:30. My son wakes up at 5:30 in the morning. So, treasure that while it lasts.
He woke up at 3:30 and moved to our bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the middle of the night, he wakes up. Is like, boom, 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 bah, boom,
so you're not getting off scot-free. Okay.
Yeah. Seasons, but we're embracing what we have right now. Man, definitely. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for making it work with the crazy schedules, and for the super interesting conversation. Looking forward to see more of your content. Hopefully meet with you at some point, because I know you're all traveling all over the place. Also looking forward to seeing what you produce after you've slowed down, because you mentioned that now has been super busy.
Yeah, definitely got some exciting projects lined up. But thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And it was lovely to meet you at Adobe Max. And for your listeners, you've created an amazing show note from my speech at Creative South. So fingers crossed your listeners will get to see that. It's truly amazing to see that wrap up like that. So thank you very much for firstly sitting through the talk, and for doing that for me. I really appreciate it. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Real quick, if people are not following you, where can they find you?
Sure. I'm on all the socials. It's at Barnard Co. And my website is barnard.co. So you can find me there.
All right. Thanks so much for joining.
Cheers, guys.
That's all for today's episode. Was juicy, huh? Thank you, James, for sharing with us how to remember information better, how we can defend our work, and why teaching what we know not only makes us better at what we do, but also helps people around us and benefits our business. And thank you for listening or watching to the Fresh Ideas podcast, where we believe that artists who pair their craft with business knowledge never starve. And that's why we invite experts to reveal recipes for success so that you can try them in your own business and see how it goes. Until next time.